folks, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We have this great net trellis that I built yesterday, and I recorded the entire video, all the procedure I went through, and my mic was not functioning well. I had a bad connection and, well, it didn't take, so there's no sound. I thought I'd show you at least what I've done and show you a little bit, because I've got to build some more trellises down there. I've got some cucumbers coming up, and we want to trellis those vertically up to up on these nets that I've got all around, and I'll show you how easy it is. I've taken these 6-foot T-posts and driven them into the ground. 6 feet is a little short for a trellis. My cucumbers would outgrow this real quick if I don't keep them pruned back, but I want to harvest everything right around here. I also have put my rows a little close together. I may have to come and take this middle row out if these cucumbers really do bush out as much as I think they might. But you know, sometimes you can get away with it if you prune them, sometimes you can't. You want good airflow in here because your cucumbers are going to be susceptible to powdery mildew. That's the biggest pest or disease that comes my way with my gardens is powdery mildew. You know, Wilson's been around our garden a long time. He's supposed to keep squirrels and birds away, but now he's just kind of our secondary mascot. I've seen birds sitting on top of Wilson, so he doesn't really work. I use this cheap nylon netting that you can buy on Amazon. Just search nylon trellis netting and you'll find all kinds of different options. This I think was made by VivoSun, but it's just real cheap netting. The hard part is when you pull it out of the bag, you got to unravel it and try to find your edges. That's the hardest part of this whole operation. I find it's easy to hang it up somewhere when you find your corners, and then you can cut off as much as you need and move along to your garden. So I'm going to cut off just a little bit here, and probably more than I need. I'm going to keep the corners of my cut off section, keep them found so I don't lose them. I'm just going to lay them on the ground here so when I come back I'll know where they are. So this is really easy. You just take a corner and hang it on there, and we'll stretch this across the garden. And I'm not using string this year. Normally I use string. Instead I'm using zip ties. Because they're cheap and I've got a lot of them on hand, I'm just going to use a zip tie. These will give us enough grip to last a season. Now I'm going to step over without stepping on anything. And I'm going to stretch this one over to this side and zip tie it on. You could use twine, string, whatever you got. But that makes it real easy. And what I'll do is I'll just come every foot or so and zip tie my net to the trellis, and I'll alternate back and forth just to keep it looking even. Sometimes you don't get even looking nets. Sometimes they zigzag around a bit. I like these T-posts because they're indestructible. You can use them over and over. I've used these for trellising for years, and they do just fine. I think 3 zip ties should be enough to get these cucumbers up. Now this just so happens to fit perfectly across my my 4-foot wide bed. But if you've got a wider bed, you might want to orient this netting the long way, and that might help you a little better. All right, well, I've cinched it up pretty tight, so now I'll just come and cut off my excess all the way across. And when our cucumbers start growing, we will clip them and train them to grow and fill this entire net. Now you have to watch out when you're building trellises in the garden like this. It's a good way to get poked in the eye. Got to watch out. And while "Poke 'em in the Eye" is a great David the Good song, I don't want to experience it myself. So be careful. So yeah, it's a little unsightly. We'll come and clip off these tag ends. But what I've done is I've looped this up and over, and I'm using this as my anchor. And you can see the anchor comes underneath this metal cleat here, so that'll keep it in place. That's not going anywhere. And this will help support the weight of all our cucumbers growing there. And that's going to work. I've bought this bag of trellis clips, and I don't know, some Chinese name, Fan Dame, 200 pieces, plant support clips. All you need to do is search on Amazon for trellis support clips, and you'll find these things. You'll find, you know, tons of them, bags of 200, 300, they're really cheap. And so the way they work is they're specifically designed for a string trellis. Right here in the hinge point where you fold it over, you capture your string in your trellis, and as you fold it over, that permanently, well, securely attaches to the string of the net trellis. But through the hole, you pass the vine that you're trying to prune up and hold up, and it just snaps into place and holds it there. And so these are a real easy way to use a net trellis. You don't have to do any weaving or anything like that. You just come out and clip your plant to the trellis where you want it to go. Let me give you kind of a demo. You can do it on this part, you can do it on this part. All you do is you capture right there in that little hinge point, you capture the string, and as you fold it over, you can see these little tabs grip the string, and you clip it. And now that is permanently on. It's not going to move anywhere until you take it off, and you can unhinge these just like so. So you can do them on the side. Again, let me show you. Just take your hinge and capture that string and go around and snap. That's all there is to that. Now these cucumbers obviously are too short to trellis up just now, but I wanted to give a demo on how to prepare for when they get large. And I've got videos on my channel of making these net trellises and pruning and growing cucumbers and pruning them and taking care of them up these trellises. So I do this video every year. It's kind of redundant, but people seem to like the new version each year. So, well, there it is. It's a little unsightly over here with the beans. Let me show you these beans. See how they're not all lined up, and that middle one is going zigzaggy? Well, sometimes that happens. My posts aren't even over there, and so that's what you get. This pole is just a standard pole from the big box store and gives enough rigidity to provide support for the cucumbers as they grow. And those heavy fruits on the cucumbers will weigh this down and it'll sag. So for heavy fruits, I like to put one like that. Over here on the beans, not so much. Beans will climb, and if I notice them getting heavy, I may weave one through there. But yeah, those guys now are going to grab on and right up the trellis. You can see how these beans have already started curling around the string on their own. I did put them up through here, but that was a few days ago when I tried to make my first trellis video. You just encourage your plants and they'll find their own way. Here's some footage of the first net trellis that Samuel and I made. You can see there Samuel's a little pipsqueak in this video. But this is a proven method and it supports cucumbers well. Here you can see how to train these cucumbers up the trellis. You just use these clips and you trap the vine in the loop while you trap the string in the hinge. This is a very firm method. I use it for cucumbers. I use it for my tomatoes. And yeah, very proven method, and it supports all the weight of a full cucumber harvest, especially with that bar across the top. So we had a beautiful year of cucumbers that year. These cucumbers came up really quick. It was nice and warm. We had a warm spell, and I planted these not too long ago, direct from seed. And I put them in this kind of topsoil garden mix stuff that I put in the trench here, and wow, they came up in 3 days. So we're gonna have to thin them. There are a lot of plants here, and yeah, we're gonna thin them out. So now we have a real trellis nightmare out here. We've got so many trellises, so many strings, so much unsightliness, but believe me, once these plants really grip these trellises and start covering it with all that foliage, you'll be glad you got your plants up off the ground. It's really good for these green beans to have something to grow on. It's really good for cucumbers. You can let cucumbers sprawl and be a ground cover, but I like to grow them vertically to save room. And yeah, it's worked for me many years and get so many cucumbers. I'm really excited to have pickles, do some pickling this year. So really excited for these green beans. Now, like I said, I've put my rows a little close together. We may have to do a lot of thinning, but you know, you got to try it, right? Hey, thank you for joining me on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I really appreciate you hanging out with me in the garden. Please like our videos, share them if you find them useful. Please subscribe to our channel. That's really encouraging. And yeah, well, happy gardening to you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.